I've been editing primarily in DaVinci Resolve for the past 4 months, and as someone who's been a Final Cut user for over a decade, it's still a bit of a shock to me. But after seeing some fellow Final Cut users making a full switch to Resolve and then seeing Apple showcase Resolve on the iPad, I began to think, maybe it's time to try it. So today, I want to talk about my experience as a Final Cut editor in Resolve and share my thoughts on whether or not I'm switching to it, and if you should too. I'm Danny Rubio, video resident here at Online Creator Studio. If you're new here, welcome. Here at Online Creator Studio, we help you get up and running in your content creation journey. So if you want to learn more about photography, video production, podcasting, or live streaming, consider subscribing. I wasn't really searching to switch from Final Cut, as it's been my go-to video editing software for over a decade now. A few standout features I've come to love are its user-friendly design, being reliable, the magnetic timeline, the metadata-focused media management, being optimized for Apple hardware, and the robust third-party plugin ecosystem. Don't get me wrong, it has its quirks, but at the end of the day, it's a tool that I've loved working in because it never really got in my way when it came to crafting a video. That is until I began growing my production company. You see, for just about my entire career, I've worked as a solo content producer for companies, meaning I was in charge of strategy, shooting, and editing, and posting. As a solo content producer, I needed to be nimble and efficient, and Final Cut helped to provide that. Honestly, it's the way I like to run. But when growing a production company, you have to optimize your workload, and that means delegation and teamwork. Enter my first real hitch with Final Cut. Final Cut, despite white papers from Apple and tools like PostLab, which help make collaborating with other editors in Final Cut better, still lacks. I think this tweet from fellow Final Cut user Mark sums it up perfectly. I was truly feeling this, especially after Drew and I worked on a pretty big project, one that I break down in this video. So when we finished that project, I started to look into what options were out there and remembered Blackmagic introduced cloud projects or the cloud library, and after looking into it, I realized it was what I was looking for. After downloading Resolve and setting up the cloud collaboration, I did a test edit. It checked all my boxes and had me pretty excited for the opportunities this opened up. Then I did a personal project in it, a pretty basic personal project for myself. It was low stakes, but I realized I just could not understand why anyone would want to cut in a track-based editor after Final Cut. Okay, I kid. It actually wasn't that bad, but it wasn't really pleasant either, so I let it be for a few weeks. Then Apple announces the new iPad M2 with Resolve coming to the iPad. Look, I may or may not be speaking for all Final Cut users out there when I say this. What the hell, Apple? Putting my real feelings aside, I made the call to revisit Resolve, but this time I decided to commit to learn. So I picked up the Resolve Editor keyboard, which you can find a review of it right here, Ripple Training's Resolve Core training course, and the commitment to edit 10 videos. It's now been 4 months and I've made well over 20 videos in Resolve. It wasn't easy and I still don't fully understand why people like track-based editors, but I don't hate it. Honestly, I get it. It's cliche, but Resolve's color space management and the color page does really level up your footage. And although I'm still learning lots, it's not as intimidating as it looks. I've also enjoyed learning how to leverage both the cut and edit page while using the cloud collaboration feature and dabbling with Fusion and Fairlight. And despite my constant misunderstandings of why people like track-based editing, I've actually come to accept it and even in some cases see how it's effective. But there are things that drive me crazy, like why Blackmagic doesn't allow us to map features to a key binding, why some things are named differently in the shortcut editor than the actual application. I also don't love having to select or deselect the auto track selectors just to make sure that my footage doesn't overwrite anything when I'm dropping it into the timeline. I get it, these are magnetic timeline user problems, but it still struggles. One of the last things is the fact that despite performance improvements, dropping titles into a timeline brings down performance, especially when using a third-party plugin like Motion VFX. Now I get it, I'm spoiled with Final Cut, and Resolve is an application that can be used on a wide variety of hardware and operating systems, but it can get pretty bad sometimes. And before someone hops into the comments to ask if I've turned on caching or changed timeline settings or generated proxies, I've done it all and it just falls drastically short compared to the graphic performance from Final Cut, which honestly isn't talked about enough. But at the end of the day, it's been an overall pleasant experience, and the things I'm learning in Resolve have helped me to be a better editor in Final Cut. So, am I switching from Final Cut to DaVinci Resolve? No. I will continue to use it for many projects this year, so I can continue to learn and get more comfortable in it, But I've realized that when I need to be quick and efficient, I'm going to use Final Cut. If I have a bigger project or need to work with other editors, I'm going to use Resolve. Heck, I might even start round tripping in some cases, because ultimately, these are just tools and we should be leveraging them for the things that they excel at, and more importantly, help us to be better at crafting stories. So if you're a Final Cut editor, I think it's worth really giving Resolve a try, but I also don't think you need to move over. I only did it because it fit a need I had. I like to think Final Cut is like a Swiss Army knife, while Resolve is a scalpel. I hope that this video helps other Final Cut users who might be wondering if they should switch, as well as any other editor. If you didn't know Ripple Training had a course for Resolve, I'd highly recommend it. Or if you have any other creator that has created a course for that program, it's really the best way to learn a program when you're first new, rather than trying to search YouTube for all the information that is out there, because it's put together and it's concise. Speaking of courses that can help you get up and running, we have a Final Cut Masterclass course that we've created that you can check out on onlinecreatorstudio.com in the description down below. Let me know if you'd like to know any of my tips as a Final Cut editor who uses Resolve in the comments down below. Hasta luego.